Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajeem. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. These are similar sound letters: ta and to, za, zal, zo. There are 16 similar sound letters. Karibus south letters are 16. Ta and to are similar. Za, zal, zo are similar. Tha, sin, sod similar. Dal and dod are similar. Kaf and qaf. Ha and ha. Hamza and ain. So how we pronounce similar sound letters? These are harakat. These are similar sound letters with harakat. Zabar by opening the mouth and raising the voice. We'll pronounce zabar by opening the mouth and raising the voice. Zair by dropping of the voice. And pesh by rounding of the lips. Opening the mouth and raising the voice. Ta, to, za, za. And dropping the voice. Zair by dropping of the voice. Ta, zair, ti. To, zair, tui. Za, zair, zi. Zal, zair, vi. Pesh by rounding of the lips. Ta, pesh, tu. To, pesh, tu. Za, pesh, zu. Zal, pesh, zu. How we pronounce the similar sound letters? So let's start. This is ta, thin tone letter. ये बारीक पढ़ेंगे इसको बारीक. And to is a thick letter, mustalia letter. So we'll pronounce it in a thicker voice. Ta zabarta, ta zerti, ta peshtu, ta ti tu. To zabarto, to zerti, to peshtu, to ti tu. Ta to, ti ti, tu tu. So these are similar sound letters, but we will read this ta thin tone and this is mustalia to thick tone. Za, zal and zo are similar. If we read them za, zi, zu, za, zi, zu, za, zi, zu, so there is no difference. Okay. अभी हम रीड करेंगे डिफरेंस कैसे करना है इनमें. हाउ वी प्रोनाउंस डिफरेंटली. जा विद विसल बट थिन टोन. जा विद विसल. जा जबर जा. जा जेर जी. जा पेश जू. जा जी जू. Zal is soft letter without whistle. Zal zabar za. Zal zir the. Zal pesh zu. Za the zu. Zo zabar zo. Zo zir the. Zo pesh zu. Zo the zu. And zo is a mustalia but soft. Za and zal thin letter. Zo is a thick letter. Za with whistle, zal and zo without whistle. So za, za, zo, zi, vi, zi, zu, zu, zu. Tha, sin and swad are similar. If we read them sa, si, su, sa, si, su, sa, si, su, they all are same. How do I know that I am reading sa, sa, sin or sod? If someone else listening, so how they know which letter I'm reading? So tha without whistle. Tha zabar tha zir thi, tha pesh thu, tha thi thu. Tha, dal and dho, they are soft letter without whistle. Za, seen and sod are with whistle. Za, seen, sod. Okay? And tha, dal, dho. So let's read. Tha zabar tha zir thi, tha pesh thu, tha thi thu. Seen zabar seen zir si, seen pesh su, sa si su. Sod zabar sod zir si, sod pesh su, so si su. Let's read together. Tha, sa, so. So you can hear this is the difference. Tha, sa, so. Seen and sod with whistle. Tha without whistle. Tha and seen thin tone, but sod with thicker voice, thick tone. Thi, si, sui. Thu, su, su. Now dal and dod are similar. So da, di, do, do, di, do. If we read them da, di, do, da, di, do, so they both are same, no difference. So we should read them dal thin tone, dod thick tone. So dal zabar dal zer di, dal pesh do, da di do, dod zabar dod zer di, dod pesh do, do di do, da do, di do do. Kaf and qaf. This is thin tone kaf and this is qaf thick tone mustalia. Kaf zabar ka, kaf zer ki, kaf pesh ku, ka ki ku. This is qaf mustalia qaf thick tone. Qaf zabar qa, qaf zer qi, qaf pesh qu, qa qi qu. Ka, qa, ki, qi, ku, qu. Ha and ha are similar. Ha, these are halkiya letters actually. Hamza, ha, ain, ha, ghain and kha. They are Hamza ha from bottom part of throat, we will pronounce them. From the chest side, Hamza ha. Ain ha from the middle part of throat. Ghain ha from the top part. Top part where we do gargle. So, so from there. Ghain ha. And they are mustalia as well. So we will pronounce them thicker voice. So this is ha zabar ha zer hi, ha pesh hu, ha he hu. This is the ha from like Allah hu, Allah hu. So, and this is ha from alhamdu, alhamdu. Okay, alhamdulillah, hamd, hamid, hamid. Okay, this ha is pronounced from the middle part of throat. So ha, he, hu. Together, ha, ha, he, hu, hu. This is Hamza and Ain similar. So a, e, u, a, I, u. Kha, khi, khu, gho, ghi, gu. Ba, bi, bu. Ma, mi, mu. Wa, wi, wu. Fa, fi, fu. La, li, lu. I'm reading without spellings. And the spellings, first we read letter, then harakat, then zabar, then sound like noon, zabar, na. So na is a sound. Na, ni, nu. Noon, zabar sound is na. Zer sound with noon, ni. And pesh with noon, nu. Ro, ri, ru. Ja, ji, ju. Sha, she, shu. Ya, yi, you. So these are similar sound letters. We will pronounce them. These are not similar sound, but this page, these are similar sound letters. So make sure we read them separate, differently. आपको समझ आ गई होगी. If you understand, please like करें, comment करें और share भी करें. Okay, Allah Hafiz.